Welcome to Retro Scale Modelling. My next build is the Airfix Tiger 1 Scale 1/72. Now, this build is a part of a series build that I'll be placing into a diorama named the Battle of Kursk. I've done a small introduction to that diorama, so be sure to check that out. So a quick look in the box. First of all, we have the instructions. And as you can see, this is a fairly new kit for Airfix, about a year, maybe 2 years old. So the instructions are in the new style with the slight color coding, which does actually help with the build. There's a small decal sheet with two variants for you to consider. Not many decals like on these tanks anyway. The stencil sheet displays the two different variants as well. So you've got the 1944, I think it is, for the actual tiger pattern, and 1943 for the winter pattern. But both of them are just generic colours. Don't worry so much about the dates. And finally, onto the sprues. We have 5 sprues in total. They're all nicely moulded and clean. Thing to look out on these sprues is on the tracks. You have two different options. You can have the wheels and track built, as you can see on the second sprue there, or you can build them up yourself. Now, this is designed for a modeler who's more advanced, if you wish to build them themselves. So you'll have to make that choice off straight away before you make the build. So let's get into this. So I've decided to build the tracks myself, and there's the illustration there. The pre-built or the ones you build. The more advanced is for the build, as I said at the start of the video. It's more to do with the application of painting than anything else. It'll be more complicated painting it when the pre-built, believe it or not. It's difficult to get into all the nook and crannies while painting these pre-built track. If you have a look at here, I'll just get something to point at. Getting your brush in between them for fine detail painting can be quite difficult. So I've opted to do it as I go along. So to start off with, I'm using Humbrol 113 Rust for the main base colour of the track, and it's just roughly applied at this stage. Then I'm moving on to Humbrol 53 gun metal once the rust colour is dried, and just going over this lightly. So a little bit of paint on the brush, taking the excess off on the kitchen towel, then rubbing my brush over it to give it that metal look. For the outer rims, I'm using Life's Colour UA7341 black. I tend to use this one more than any other. And then I'm going on to the inner part of the wheel, and that is Humbrol 94 brown yellow. This is actually the main colour of the tank. So as you can see here, I'm just applying it to all over the tank at the moment. And then it's back to 53 gunmetal, and this is for the tow cables that sit on top of the hull. For the actual construction, it's the first part is the underside of the tank, or the belly, going into the sidewall that hold the axles. And there's a little lip that runs along here that I'm just pointing out. It's for the contact point. It's fairly easy to construct. Next, I'm using Tamiya's Withering Master Series C and the gunmetal component, and this is just to highlight the little raised details around the tank. The bottom won't actually get seen, but just a good practice to do it, really. I'm also applying it to the rear armament before I install it. Now to fit the rear armour plate, just make sure that the narrow part is towards the bottom, then it should just fit into the lip there. It's better to go in the bottom and then just swing it into the top part of the main track. I'm using Humbrol 110 natural wood, and this is for the front armour plating, and there's a lot of spade that's moulded into the plastic here, so I'm just painting the handle. The actual blade itself is the 53 gunmetal. So once that's all painted, it was just time to attach it. There's just two little sections cut into the armour plate, and it just slides into the main hull like so. Now you'll notice two holes there. They're meant to be there, so don't worry about if you see that gap. So next is onto the main part of the hull. There's a series of little holes you have to drill here that holds the cables in, the tow cables. So I'm simply using my pin drive just to drill the holes. There's also some moulded utility items that have to be painted. So the wood is 110 natural wood for the handle and 53 gunmetal once more for the blade. There's a spade, there's a pair of tongs, and there's a hammer that all has to be painted in. You don't necessarily have to paint them at this stage, but I do find it easier to paint them as I go along. So now it's time to attach the top half of the hull. Now it's better to attach this from the front part, so where those two little slits, those holes are. It should just push in and click in, but it's easier to put it in this way first and then lay the back down onto the back armament plate. It seems to fit better that way. So once that's on, it's time to drill some more holes on the side skirts. These are to hold more cables. There's 3 cables in total that go onto this tank. Once the holes are drilled, it's quite a simple process of laying them down, but just be careful which side you put it on, because only one side does actually have the cable on. So now that's done, I'm moving on to the back part once more, and I'm putting in the exhaust. But before I put them in, I'm using the little cable brackets. I'm putting them on first. Now the instructions say put these on later, but you run out of room very quickly on this little kit, and these parts are very small, so it's a wise idea just to place them in now before you place in the actual exhaust. The exhausts themselves are a simple fit. They go into all the little recess points you see on the back armour plate there. It comes in 2 stages. You have the inner part and then the outer part. Now the inner part is painted in the 113 rust colour, and the outer casing of the part, the armament, is painted in the main tank colour. Then once that's done, it was time to move on to the gun. Now the gun here is tiny. This is the front gun. You have to assemble it, but it's worth noting there's also a spare gun on the sprue that you don't have to assemble. So if you don't fancy doing that, it's already assembled for you. On the driver's window, I'm using RC401 Dirty Black just to paint the window. You don't really necessarily have to do this. It's such a small part, but I decided to paint it anyway. Then I'm moving on to 53 gunmetal once more, and that's just to paint the tip of the actual gun itself. Then once it's all dry, it's just a case of placing on the gun. There's a small indentation on front of the armour plate there, which the gun sits on, and then the driver's window goes on next. There's a little stud of plastic that this butts up to, so it's quite easy to find the location position for it to go onto. Next up is assembly of the gun mount and turret. The gun mount itself is an easy construction. There's the location points on them are each one's a certain size to the recess or air hole, so you can't get mixed up which way they go, because it can only go one way. Just push it together. Add a little bit of cement, not too much. You will also have to drill some more holes to hold the spare track that goes around the turret if you wish to put it on. Be sure I should say that you've decided to put it on before you drill these holes, because obviously you don't want to then go back and have to fill them up. So for the assembly of the turret, if you want the gun to be free moving, there's little pins here that pop into the turret. make sure you put in one end first. Don't try assemble the turret then put the gun in, it won't work. So once you've got the location of the gun mount in, it's time to cement the actual turret. Be careful with your cement here. Obviously you do not want it to go anywhere near the gun mount initially, because you want it free moving. So just a little bit of cement along the edge here. I can't stress enough that you really got to be careful if you want this to be free moving. It's very easy to bung it up. So once you're happy with the cement placement, just squeeze the turret together and it should go bond without much problem. Obviously check to see whether you still got free movement. Well, I've decided to split this video into two parts. I was only going to be doing it in the one part, but there's a lot more work involved than you realise in these little kits. So two parts, I think it'll do it justice. So if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out the other videos on my channel on the diorama series and the 176 build that I've recently done. Subscribe to the channel for all future updates. Hit that like button and of course leave a comment. But for now, thank you all very much for watching. Bye bye.